Well, those movies will all take place in the world that we are now creating for Peter Parker. I mean, there'll be adjuncts to it. They may be different locations, but it will still all be in the same world, and they will be connected to each other as well.
So there is a chance that Tom Holland as Spider-Man will pop up somewhere
There's
over
a
there?
chance.
There's always a chance.
There's always a chance.
What is good, YouTube? Warstu here with a video on Venom potentially being in a Spider-Man movie, but it's not what people are saying. It's not going to be inside the MCU. If it does ever happen, it will be in the Sonyverse, sadly. So if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe to never miss any of the videos. We are currently giving tickets away to go and watch Spider-Man Far From Home, which comes out in less than 2 weeks. But first, guys, I want to say thank you very much to everyone that watches my video, dislikes the video, likes the video, comment the videos. Because of you guys, I'm getting to watch yet again another movie early. So I get to go and watch Spider-Man Far From Home this coming Thursday, which is going to be pretty cool. And then it comes out the following Tuesday. So we will have the review up as soon as the embargo lifts, the review embargo. But like always, guys, we will be doing the non-spoiler, the spoiler, the post-credit scene, how it sets the phase 4, and everything like that. So there is so much news going on at Marvel, and it's only going to get crazy with the release of Spider-Man Far From Home, and that will show you what is coming for the future. Then we've got San Diego Comic-Con, then we've got all these announcements about all these other movies coming out. So don't worry, guys, it's going to be a pretty awesome summer. So let's get into the news. So there's a story that's blown up recently, and it's been taken out of context, really. So there was a movie called Venom. The reviews were very mixed. I personally thought it was pretty cool. I bought it on Blu-ray. It made $855 million, which I think is roughly just under £700 million my money. So that's a pretty decent money. At the time of it coming out, it was the highest grossing origin story, obviously, before Captain Marvel came out, but pretty good for a Sony movie. You know, Sony movies generally freaking flop. So it did really well. So there are plans for Venom 2, supposedly. They've got to make one, but mainly this movie did well because it did really well in China, and that is what gave it a major bump. So earlier this week in London, there was a press junket, which sadly we couldn't get into because I applied too late, but that's a different story. So essentially what happened was Kevin Feige, Jake Gyllenhaal, Tom Holland, etc. answered a lot of questions about a lot of things that had nothing to do with the movie, which is kind of interesting. So Kevin Feige said some comments about Venom and Spider-Man, and recently it's been blowing up on the internet, but like I said, it's really out of proportion. Everyone is kind of saying that he confirmed that Spider-Man and Venom will fight and will meet. Well, they can't really, because one's an anti-hero, one's a hero, so it wouldn't really make much sense. So what he actually said is the following. I think probably it's up to Sony. Sony has both of these characters and has Venom in their world, okay? This is where everyone is getting it wrong, in their world. So he's talking about, yes, it will probably happen inside the Sony universe, not inside the MCU. I don't know what their plans are for another Venom, or if they're doing that, but it seems likely at some point. So he seems like he's really frustrated, really annoyed by this, because he's in a very bad situation when it comes to Spider-Man. Because obviously Amy Pascal was at Sony. She's now left Sony for Universal, but apparently she's still managing the Spider-Man part of Sony, which literally makes no sense. But I guess it kind of does make sense because you can work for 10 companies at the same time if you really wanted to. So essentially, he is pretty frustrated and salty because Spider-Man is owned by Sony when it comes to the movies. So realistically, if Sony wanted to, they could pull Spider-Man out of the MCU as fast as Thanos fingered half of the MCU and evaporated the whole of the universe, so to speak. So essentially, the Spider-Man deal is nearly over. 3 solo movies and 3 team-up movies, and we've got Spider-Man 3. So after Spider-Man 3, unless there is a different deal, realistically, Sony could pull Spider-Man back into Venom or Morbius, or could pull him anywhere. Kraven the Hunter could literally do anything they want with this character. So yes, Kevin Feige does think at some point they will meet, but the important part here, has Venom in their world. So if it's ever going to happen, it will be in Venom 2 or Venom 3. And it doesn't necessarily mean that the kind of Spider-Man we see in the Sony universe has to be Tom Holland. version. It could be Miles Morales, it could be anyone. But I realistically cannot see Spider-Man being in Venom 2, or else the whole post-credit scene with Carnage would be a waste, but Venom could realistically appear. Yes, over the time on this channel, we have theorized that Venom was going to appear in Avengers Infinity War. He was going to come down from space with a symbiote. You know the story, how Spider-Man turned into Venom at one point in the comic books. We all know that storyline. So essentially, is it going to happen? Yes, I 100% think it's going to happen. Tom Hardy wants it to happen. Tom Holland wants it to happen. But like I said, guys, the actors don't have any power. They're not Robert Downey Jr. Robert Downey Jr. probably had some say in what happened, but they don't have much power. So it's up to whoever's in charge at Sony Pictures now if they want to bring Spider-Man through. Now, if they did bring Tom Holland Spider-Man from the MCU over to the Venomverse, I guess you could say, it would make sense because there's the whole multiverse. But as we discussed yesterday, different versions could appear. Like we said, Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield's versions of Spider-Man could in theory appear in the MCU one day in the sense of multiverse, and you could just keep saying multiverse in a sense for that. So yes, in theory, it could happen. It woulda, shoulda, coulda happen. But Kevin Feige hasn't really got any reason to answer questions about Venom because he doesn't own Venom, he doesn't own Spider-Man. There is a contract that unless it's being renewed, then it's just going to be a really annoying question. He didn't seem too impressed when he was asked about Venom because Marvel Studio doesn't own Spider-Man, and unless they upgrade their contract, they're only allowed to use Spider-Man for a limited number of movies. Feige has to kind of roll with whatever Venom and Sony want to do. If there is going to be a Venom Spider-Man crossover, it's going to have to happen in a Venom movie, unless Sony can somehow negotiate a deal to pull Venom into, say, Spider-Man 3 or 4 in the Venom world, kind of pull him over to like the MCU franchise kind of thing. But that would be really hard to negotiate talks for Sony to allow their character to come into the MCU, although it would make more sense for Venom to come over to the MCU than it would Tom Holland Spider-Man go over to the Venomverse. It would make more sense, and in my opinion it would be good for business on both parts. But you know, Marvel do not like to use characters they do not fully own unless they have to, hence why the Netflix characters are being pulled, because we all know Kingpin, Daredevil, they're all coming into MCU movie or an MCU Disney streaming service show when the cooling off period has happened. So it is very interesting, but I wanted to kind of break it down properly because I've seen a load of articles being sent some stuff. And to be honest, guys, a lot of people are really misleading and like they're talking very vague about what he actually said. Yes, he did say it's very likely, but like I said, Kevin Feige has got nothing to do with the Venom character. He's got no say in the matter. So I find that very interesting. So in yesterday's video, we spoke about how Keanu Reeves is in talks. He's been in talks for so many different roles. It's kind of funny because Jake Gyllenhaal was supposedly supposed to be Spider-Man before, obviously, Andrew Garfield was Spider-Man. So he was supposed to be that version of Spider-Man, and now he's a Mysterio. So everyone think, oh my God, that's happened now. Tobey Maguire's going to run move here, which would be cool. So Keanu Reeves, there's a lot of people thinking that he should play the Silver Surfer, which would be cool. I think they should place him in the Eternals movie. I think that would be pretty cool. But it is cool to get confirmation that they've always tried to sign him, but they've never found the right role. And I presume Jake Gyllenhaal would kill the Mysterio role when we actually get to see him. So what is interesting is there's an insider called Roger, and whenever he's wrong, which isn't really often, people jump on it. So recently Kevin Feige said something about the Fantastic Four and the X-Men, etc. But Roger was like, they're too busy with other developments. But what Mr. Kevin Feige, again, has said has been taken out of context. Again, he said the following: it's still early days, but it's been a fun exercise. It's one, by the way, we've been doing for years. Early development meeting starts with cool ideas, fun ideas. Our wheels are always turning in terms of what if, to use Marvel publishing terms. If we did this, if we did that, what if we had access to such characters and such characters? That's how Spider-Man Homecoming came together in the first place. It's fun now to be in a position with Fox characters too, because if we came up with a great idea, what if we can actually do it now? Which is interesting, guys, because realistically, this does not debunk anything that Roger said, because people insinuating the Fantastic Four would appear in 2022, but we're really close. We're over halfway into 2019, so I don't think we're going to see the Fantastic Four anytime soon. So it is interesting how what Kevin Feige said recently doesn't really debunk anything that Roger actually said. So the reports for Spider-Man Far From Home are still coming out. Some are very positive, some aren't. Some are saying the best Spider-Man movie ever. No, I can't really comment on that till next week if I think it is going to be the best one. But it's going to be hard to beat Tobey Maguire's version, let's be honest. But we haven't really had any interpersonal, deep, emotional scenes with Spider-Man. But what about EndGame and Infinity War? Yeah. But I'm about inside his own solo movies, not movies that are attached to big franchises, just the Spider-Man solo movies. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this has an impact. And I do think them re-releasing EndGame, it's kind of a bad thing and a good thing because they're re-releasing it a week before Spider-Man Far From Home comes out, which I think will negatively impact people going to see Spider-Man because it's kind of the in-between movie. You know how we got Ant-Man and the Wasp in between Infinity War and EndGame coming out. A lot of people skipped that movie. They didn't really care for that movie. And to be honest, you didn't really need to watch the movie except for the post-credit scene. And most people would have waited until people like me talk about what the post-credit scene for that movie was online. So maybe some people would do the same thing for this movie because not everyone cares for Spider-Man movies. I know Spider-Man is one of the greatest characters ever, in my opinion, but some people may just skip this movie. There's a lot of people saying it's going to smash 1 billion easy, but then if you look at the Homecoming numbers, it didn't hit 1 billion, so why would this hit 1 billion? I mean, I know the MCU's bigger now than when Homecoming came out, but it is going to be very interesting. If it doesn't hit 1 billion, I will be really surprised because everyone was slating Captain Marvel movie before that movie came out, and she smashed 1 billion pretty easily, and the first week absolutely flew. So it's going to be very interesting, but like I said, guys, I will put my video up whenever I'm allowed to, and that'd be pretty cool. So like always, guys, please like, subscribe, and comment. It will be very much appreciated if you could share this video. We are getting ever so closer every single day to hitting that 100,000 subscriber dream. For some reason, it's taken me so long, and progression is progression, guys, but I really wish we would have hit it ages ago. So like always, guys, help the channel out, share, subscribe with everyone, and that would be pretty cool. And I will get you in another video very soon. Catch ya later.